What's up family, it's Wilson, also known as Designed by Will, and in today's video we're going to be designing a women's streetwear collection in less than 3 hours. To give you guys the full process, this is going to be part 1, the technicals. Let's get into it. I want you to go ahead and open your Illustrator right now. Just so you guys don't feel confused, I've just collected references and done some sketching prior hand, so I have a sense of direction in terms of where I'm going for this project. No, this is not counted within a 3-hour time period because this took me way too long. Secondly, I've just opened the Designed by Will Tech Pack Pro version because I'm going to be needing it to develop these cut and sew garments. I'm going to go ahead and select the classic t-shirt and copy and paste it into our new document which has our designs in it. Then I'm going to get the direct selection tool and delete the green color or the color fill. From here, I'm going to select it all and ungroup it. Focusing on the front of the t-shirt, all we're going to really need from this, because it is a women's t-shirt, is going to be the collar, but it allows us to develop a t-shirt much more quickly because we have a base of understanding on how to design these cut and sew garments. And with technicals, we only need half. So we're going to go ahead and press Command R on Mac, which is going to allow us to bring our rulers. And that's going to allow us to drop in a guideline. All you have to do is drag it in from the side or the top to create a new guideline. Put it roughly within the center and go ahead and you want to lock this guideline. You don't want it to move around or do anything while you work on it. From here, you just want to press B, which is going to allow you to get your cutting tool, C, not B. Your cutting tool, and you want to go ahead and cut half this t-shirt. You want to cut it in half. Sometimes these joints won't be connected within the pack, but on these t-shirts and stuff like that, they might be connected. So you want to go ahead and delete the whole half. That's why we want it to be completely centered, because it makes our life a bit easier when going to put the garment into a hole again. Next, you just want to create a point away from the bottom of this L that connects the t-shirt to the bottom, and you want to delete that little section using the direct selection tool, highlighting the outlines and everything else like that. Then you want to drag in the point of this line all the way up to create a sort of fake crop t-shirt. Now this is going to give us a dimension for reference, but remember that this garment was based on a male's physique, so it's going to be very wide once we put it back together. So we're going to have to do some things later on to bring it back to the smaller shape. Looking at this reference now, we're going to start to develop the actual garment, and it's going to go step by step. Using the pencil tool, we're just going to make a quick draft based off our sketches. Then we'll head over back to the toolbox and get a actual pen tool. So just press P on your keyboard if you're on Mac or Windows. And we're just going to be tracing this line, but don't actually do the lines one by one. Just make 3 anchor points, one for the starting position, one for the middle position, and one for the end position. From here, you want to grab the direct selection tool and delete the draft version. Then grab the curve pen tool. Once you've got this aligned, that curve pen tool is going to allow us to create a sort of seamless swoop in between that little first and second anchor point. After that, you want to grab the direct selection tool and select the second anchor point, and drag it up to make another curve. Now you want to select the first line that we had for our t-shirt and the first line that we had for a little swoop, and we're going to be joining these. So basically, you're going to make sure it is on the end, because if it is not on the end, it's not going to allow you to use joining. Select it all, right click, then press join points, and from here you're going to get this really ugly looking swoop. I don't know what you call these, but you can delete them a numerous amount of ways. You can do it this way, which is fine. To recreate that sort of swoop within our garment from the sketch, you want to go ahead and grab the curve pen tool and basically freehand in your little swoop or your little curve that you want for your garment. You can go ahead and edit these once you have them how you want, and if you don't like it, you can always go back by pressing Command Z. And I really love this feature because I always mess up, but usually the first 3 times for me, I tell myself are just drafts, because it gives me a sense of direction on how to use the tool, and then I go in professionally and make it look nice and pretty, because as you can see here, that swoop is perfect. I want you to go ahead and grab your direct selection tool, grab the anchor point towards the end of the swoop and drag it down to complete it. Next, we just want to delete half this whole collar and also delete the collar line between the garment and the edge of the collar towards the top. Next, I want you to grab the direct selection tool and select the body line that we have created. Then go to object path, offset path, and set it around to 2. And that's going to create a perfect offset, which we're going to be introducing our stitch lines. Now, you don't really need this, but this just looks a little bit more professional. And since I'm showing you guys the full process on developing these cut and sew garments, this is how I would produce it. And you can see me here taking samples using the sampling tool or the eyedropper tool, just to get the different weights from the lines using that technical pack. This is why I kept the technical pack in here, so I could sample different elements and we don't have to do it from scratch. Using that same technique and process, I basically want you to grab the direct selection tool and then use C to get the scissors tool or the blade tool and disconnect those two joints there. From there, we're going to go back to object path, offset path, and we're just going to start to create a collar that would suit a woman's sort of garment. And they tend to be a little bit more thin, so I'm setting it to around 7 to 10 roughly. And from here, we can start separating the parts that we don't need. Now, this is how I create technicals in a much more effective way rather than drawing them in by hand, because it is not accurate when you draw it in by hand. From here, you can go in and adjust it, which I would recommend, so everything fits a little bit better towards the garment, so it's not completely computerized, if you get what I mean. And we can basically go again, path, offset path, to create a stitch line for the collar's attachment. So that's where you would attach the t-shirt to the collar, because collars are sewn on separately, if you guys didn't know that about t-shirts, especially when they're getting custom made. Essentially, I'm going through the same process as I did before. I'm separating the points that we don't need, then using the direct selection tool to select those, and then going back and deleting those, then going ahead using the sampling tool, and sampling the stitch lines. I won't repeat it, but we're basically going to do the same thing for the bottom of the t-shirt to add a hem. And it's the same exact process, path, offset path, etc, etc. I want you to go ahead and add in any small details that you left off, like behind the back of the collar, which is basically just cutting off the point where it joins and then making a duplicate, holding Option and dragging down on Mac. Now, essentially, that's how you create a sort of custom tech pack completely from scratch. Lastly, I just always press Command Y to check my line work, make sure everything is in order and make sure everything's aligned, because we're going to have to duplicate it onto the other side. Sometimes I rush this, but most of the times I double check and make sure everything is aligned using the first thing that we did was create a guideline. Now, if you're at this stage, all you have to do now is basically make a duplicate by selecting it all, grouping it, then holding Option and dragging down, or pressing Command C, Command V to duplicate it. From here, make sure everything is grouped again. I'm very OCD about that, and make another duplicate holding Command C, Command V, or dragging across. Then basically you're going to right click and transform, and you can basically reflect the object. And from here, make sure everything's aligned and you can see the t-shirt come together. Now, I make any final adjustments after this point. It looks perfectly fine, but to me, it was looking a little bit too boxy. So I went ahead and did any final refinements, which was basically cropping the t-shirt up, which led me to redo the body lines, which were super annoying. But that's just what comes with working with Illustrator and making things cut and sew. This is why these things take forever. And there's a lot of people working on this stuff, because yes, it's never perfect the first round you do it, but just to show you guys the full process on how to develop a sort of custom sewed t-shirt, this is what goes into what you would call a 5-minute t-shirt. Literally, I would say 30 to 40 minutes worth of work. After making those final adjustments and making it super wide, I just basically align everything, group it, the same process, and then slim it down using the selection tool and transform, but without holding shift, to just go ahead and make it look a bit more thinner. Next, you can go ahead and connect all these lines just so it makes it easier for yourself when you go to painting. Now, later on in the video, I'm going to show you guys how to paint in Illustrator in the most effective way that I've found, and it's not shape builder. It's a new tool to the channel. After we've got our t-shirts done, we're going to move directly into the matching shorts. Now for this, it's a lot more easier. We're going to be using the Designedbywil Tech Pack Pro version, and we're going to be using the shorts almost to the T. The only thing we're going to do is bring them up using a line. For this version, we're just going to be using the front of the pant, and that's what we're going to need. Now the pants already look somewhat like our sketch, so that's why I went ahead and used these. So we're going to be creating custom women cargo shorts, which look pretty interesting. First thing, as always, is delete all the colors. I want you to go ahead and add in a simple line using the pen tool, and grabbing the inseam, just drag it up a bit more because we're going to make a 2-inch inseam sort of shorts. Drag the line that you created using the pen tool, and you're going to want to make 2 duplicates. So one is going to be the bottom of the hem, and the next one is going to be the top of the hem, and then we're going to make a stitch line. Basically, you're going to want to change the color of the line work that you're going to be cutting out, so it's a lot more easier to see. But I don't even know why I did this, because I go ahead and put it in wireframe mode by pressing Command Y to see the line works a little bit more clearly. But just to make sure that we're not deleting anything else and we go back and go crazy, this is a good way of reminding which lines to cut. Using the scissors tool or the cut tool, whichever way it's easier for you to remove things or cut things in half, go ahead and cut at the bottom of the hem, and that's where the shorts are going to end, and just delete the leftover. Next, I want you to do the same thing for all the hem lines. Go ahead and select them, get the scissors tool, and start cutting where the hem meets the end of the shorts, and especially in the middle / inseam of the shorts. Make sure you get that and cut it out, and that's going to be it. Once you've finished cutting and chopping everything up, just make sure you change the color of all the lines back to black, and then we have our shorts basically ready, or the outline of the shorts. Head back into the technical and grab the 3D pockets or the 3D cargo pockets, just using the direct selection tool and highlighting them and pressing Command C, then going back into our original document we're working in and press Command V. From here, you can just align it and make sure everything looks nice, and if you really want this pocket, or you can go ahead and do a custom pocket if you need. From here, you're more than free to add in any custom hardware. For me, I'm just going to go on with a clip-on button, referring back to our revision Menace cargo shorts, and just duplicate that over to the other side and make sure it's aligned, and we basically have the outline of our cargos. Now all we have to do is make sure everything is straight, and introduce the body lines referring back to our t-shirt. Essentially, to get the body lines, we're just going to directly copy the ones from the t-shirt and drag it down to the pant. It's going to be coming in from the side like the original shorts that we had within the technical pack, but just to make sure it's the same, we want that little swoop and that little bit of flavor, you know. And basically all we have to do is duplicate it and do the same thing that we did to make the shorts cropped. Highlight all the lines that are unnecessary, cut them off, and delete them. The reason why I'm duplicating it this way is to ensure that everything is aligned as close as I can. Once you have everything cut and nice and aligned, you can go ahead and make a duplicate of the full shorts, and we're just gonna go ahead and make the back. Go ahead and remove any unnecessary things like the front pockets and also the seam where the zipper would go. And essentially you have some shorts completely done, front and back. And that's complete, a whole set finished. Next, we're gonna head over and start making the tank top. I want you to start by removing the hemlines between the t-shirt and the shoulders / sleeves. Grab the direct selection tool and basically select the bottom hem and drag it up, just holding shift so everything is still straight. Now from here we can grab our reference and start looking at how to build those cuts for the tank. Now I didn't make these wide the first time, but we can use this as a draft or as a teaching moment. I should have been smart and just drew the lines of the garment towards the end of the old sleeve, but I made it a bit deeper, which ended up being a bit too deep. And the way I did it was just by using the curve pen tool, and that's what I'm using to create these lines. Like always, grab the scissors tool and remove the old sleeves. After cleaning it all up, I basically want you to select the side of the t-shirt and grab the curve pen tool and bring it in. After bringing that in, I want you to go ahead and ensure that the garment lines are still the same, because we don't want everything to be unmatched. Go to path, offset path, and set the offset to around 6 to 8, just to get the width of a, I guess, collar or a hem of the t-shirt, hem of a sleeve actually. And just make sure that you got it how you want it. For me, I just kept playing with it, but 6 to 8 was more effective than a 10. I don't even know why I put it to 10. Align the hem and make sure it's nice and straight, and then go in with a cutting tool and remove the excess. Ideally, I want you to do the exact same thing, but for the actual lines of the stitching. Like always, I set it to 2 and just sample the stitch lines from the garment. After you finish aligning everything, it's basically complete. All you have to do is duplicate the side and drag it to the other side, and you have it complete. Now, this was the easiest one, but I made some adjustments because I made the sleeve hole a little bit too deep, and we want it to be cropped a little bit closer to the arm. And to make the back of the t-shirt, it's simply straightforward. Just grab the back of the t-shirt so you can get the collar, or you can make the collar from scratch, whichever way is easier for you. Remove the front collar of that t-shirt and just place in the back one. And that shirt is complete. But lastly, I just wanted to add in this little love heart as sort of a fake pocket to the back of the pants, because I remember seeing this reference for these star shorts, which looked really sick. To finish off the collection, we're going to be making a women's tracksuit set, but with a cropped hoodie. I want you to start with the rugby jersey, which is going to be the foundation for how we place our arms. Now, this is going to look completely different to what it looks like now, but it gives us a shell in terms of dimensions, so we don't go off and make anything look wonky. Using the direct selection tool, we're going to start off by just cropping this hoodie up to see where we want this hoodie to start. I want you to go ahead and remove half the hoodie, which is going to allow us to design only the one side so we can reflect it. Go ahead and grab the pen tool to draft in at the bottom of the hem of the women's hoodie. Go ahead and remove the collar from this rugby jersey. Next, I want you to add in a horizontal guideline roughly around where the armpit meets the new sleeve. From here, I want you to grab the pen tool by pressing N and introduce a line of where the hood will end on the front of the hoodie. Next, I want you to add the front part of the hood. After referencing the drawing, we can go ahead and add in where we want our holes for our strings to come from. And that's simply just getting the ellipse tool and holding shift. After that, you can simply go and sample one of the smaller lines so it looks more uniform with the accessories of the garment. I just want you to go to path, offset path, and set the offset to 1 to create a more realistic look of the outline. Grab the pen tool and add in a line or a guideline for where the hood is going to end on the hoodie. Simply draw in a complete straight line from top to bottom. This is going to give us an indicator of where our zipper is going to be. Don't forget to duplicate that. Go ahead and add in the pencil tool, which we're going to be using to draw in some depth for the hoodie where it would be folded laying on the back. I already know this is going to be wide, so I want you to go ahead and crop in the hoodie a lot more. Using the pencil, you can simply grab the curve pencil, and drag in this little hem at the bottom here so it looks more feminine and cropped in. This hoodie shouldn't be connected, it's just very grouped in a bunch of ways, so I just ungrouped it all and made sure to drop the sleeve down a bit because we're going to make this hoodie a drop shoulder. Once we've got our placement, I want you to select the hoodie shoulder and grab the pen tool and the pencil tool. This is going to allow us to edit that line and connect it to the rest of the hoodie, making an essential drop shoulder. Delete the existing sleeve line, and we're going to go ahead and draw in a new one just by using the pencil tool. Now essentially we're going to add in this kangaroo pocket as a placeholder until we get our final one. This is from the Designed by Will Pro Tech Pack, and it's within that pocket set area. Like always, go ahead and cut it in half, so we only got half the kangaroo pocket. And that's that garment essentially complete. Now I'm just going to go ahead and go through the whole garment and make sure the lines look uniform and they're correct towards the rest of the garment. So making sure everything like accessories, the inside lines are all light, and everything that's exaggerated or must be highlighted for the outline is thicker. This just makes the overall garment / construction of your technical look more professional. I have this reference here of this woman tracksuit, and it's frayed on the edges and all across the stitching, which I really enjoy. So I went ahead and used it as a reference for this garment. Reference or directly copying. After adding in the zipper and fixing the kangaroo pocket, we can go ahead and start adding in the fraying related to the reference, and that's simply done by introducing a very thin line and also using the pencil tool, which you can go ahead and adjust the settings for. Essentially what I'm doing is making a very squiggly line using the pencil tool, and then duplicating a squiggly line underneath, or drawing in a second squiggly line to make it look like the edges are frayed. Obviously, if you were to send a technical of this, just relate back to the image to make it look more realistic, or you can go ahead and draw it in more realistically. After spending literally 45 minutes of my life drawing in these squiggly lines, for the duplicated lines, I just basically sampled the stitching of the collar to make it look like the fray would be stitched on. I don't know if that makes sense. But lastly, just duplicate everything once you have it grouped and align it, crop the zipper, and you have a perfectly done women's crop hoodie. For the pants, I simply want you to grab the tracksuit pants with a flare, and all you're gonna need is the front of it. So go ahead and ungroup everything and delete the back. Using the selection tool without holding shift, just drag it in so it warps to make it look more thin and it's tailored towards a more feminine look, and go ahead and crop it in if you have to. Remove any accessories or anything else such as the double line to indicate that the hem was unstitched, and it makes it look like some normal cargos. From here, we're going to directly reference the garment, how they have curved pockets. So we're just going to have to remove the old ones and basically use the curved pen tool to drag them in. But firstly, let's ensure that our hem is done correctly at the bottom and we have those double lines. Go ahead and remove the second lining for the pocket and select the pocket itself. Grab the curved pen tool and drag it in a bit to ensure that it aligns with the reference. Head over to path, offset path, and select it to 1 or 2, whatever suits your reference. Go ahead and get the eyedropper tool and select one of the lines relating to your stitching so it can all be uniform. Make sure it's all aligned. Proceed by removing any excess, finishing up by grabbing the direct selection and aligning it to the rest of the pant. Go path, offset path again. Set that one to 1, and that's going to allow us to make a sort of double lining effect for the pants. This is going to make sense because we're making a sort of, I guess, unhemmed looking effect. Go ahead and grab your pencil tool once you've selected all the lining and draw in your little scribbles or wiggles to indicate the unhemmed look. After we've got that, that's essentially the base of the pants. We're just going to go ahead and remove any unnecessary things that might relate it back to the old men's joggers or men's pants. And essentially that's it. We're going to go ahead and just make the back for the jacket and then make the back for the pants. That's essentially all our flat garments completed, and they're going to be in the Streetwear Patreon for my studio people if you don't want to go through this whole gruesome process. Let me know what you guys thought about these technicals. Were they too difficult? Did I make it clear? Probably didn't, knowing how I teach, but like I said before, these are in the Streetwear Patreon, so make sure to check it out if you just want to go in and mess around with these technicals. I'll see you guys in part 2.